All right, sixth graders, today we're taking a look at Module 2, Lesson 14, and it is the division algorithm. We're going to convert decimal division into a whole number division using fractions. And the target goal is for you to be able to use your knowledge of dividing multi-digit numbers to solve quotients of multi-digit decimals. You will also understand the mathematical concept of decimal placement in the divisor and the dividend and its connection to multiplying by powers of 10. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the opening problem, and it says to divide 1/2 by 1/10 using a tape diagram. So go ahead and sketch a really quick tape diagram. Now, the reason mine is already cut, where did I get that? Well, remember that we look back to our denominators. And what do 2 and 10 both have in common? Right, their least common multiple is 10. So we're going to change our denominator of 2 to a 10. How do I get from 2 to 10? Times 5, so 1 times 5 is 5. And because I picked 10 as my denominator, that's why I have 10 spots here. So I'm going to go ahead and find my 5 tenths. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's my 5 tenths, which is the same thing as my half. Okay, so here is my half of it. I don't get to use this half over here. Now, by cutting that already, I've already divided it into tenths, so all I have to do is see how many fit in my half. And as you can see, the answer should be 5. Now, we're going to relate that. We got a 5, and it's called the invert and multiply. We call it keep, change, flip. So we'll go ahead and write it. We're going to do 1/2 divided by a 10th. We're going to keep the first one, change division to multiply, and flip. We're going to take that reciprocal, flip it. Can we cross cancel? Absolutely, right? 2 can go into 2 once, and 2 goes into 10 5 times. Multiply straight across. Our numerator is 5, and our denominator is 1, which equals just 5, which is the same thing we got. Now, let's keep that in mind as we go to the next one. The next one says evaluate this expression and use a tape diagram to support it. Now we have decimals. So if we're looking at this, I still did it because this is in the tenths spot. So I still made 10 boxes. And then with each one of these, I know that since I made 10, each one of these is worth a tenth. But I only had 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here is my 5 tenths. And the question is, how many of these 1/10ths fit in there? Well, it's just those right there. So it again equals 5. Now, this is the new stuff right here, okay? Right here, these two. So let's go ahead and it says rewrite this divided by this as a fraction. So we're going to write it as 5 tenths divided by 1/10. Easy, right? We just wrote it as a fraction. But now we need to express the divisor as a whole number. So we are going to take that fraction that we just did, and we are going to say, well, if I need to make this so it doesn't have decimals, because we want it as a whole number. And just so we remember that our divisor is what we're dividing by. So in this case, it is that 0.1, okay? Well, if we multiplied, I'm going to use an X just because of our decimals. If we multiplied by 10 over 10, remember that's the same thing as just multiplying by 1. We're just going to write it differently, okay? When we do that, when I would multiply 0.1 or 1/10 times 10, I would get a 1. And when I multiply 5 tenths times 10, I get 5. Notice now I have a whole number. 5 divided by 1 is 5. Okay, let's take a look at number 2. First thing we want to do is we want to write this as a fraction. So I'm going to write 14.04, 14 and 4 hundredths, over 4 and 68 hundredths. Well, notice our largest decimal is in the hundred spot, so we're going to multiply this by 100 over 100, which is just like 1. By doing that, it's moving it to get rid of our decimals. So we would now have 1,404 divided by 468. Let's look at the next one. Evaluate the expression. First, convert the decimal division expression to a fractional in order to create a whole number divisor. Then down here it says use the algorithm to find the quotient. This means solve. That's what that means. The division algorithm just means we're going to have our division house and actually do it. All right, let's take a look. We need to write it as a fraction. So 25 and 2/10 and 72 hundredths. We have to go to our largest place value, which is 10 hundredths. So when I go to do this, I know that I need to multiply by 100 on both of these. Because it says I need my whole number divisor. This is my divisor. It has 2 places, so I have to go to it. Okay? Notice this one would only have needed 1 place, but we don't care right now about that. We only care about the divisor. When I multiply by 100, my numerator becomes 2,520 because I can't move it 2 places. I would have to add on a 0. And in my denominator, I have 72. Now I've got it ready. I can go down here and actually solve it. So now I'm going to have 2520 and 72. Off to the side, let's go ahead and count by, there's my 1 is 72. 2 times 72 is 144. 3 times 72 is 216. 4 is 288. 5 is 320. Is that right? No. 288 and 72. 360. 360. And I think that might be as far as we have to go. So let's go ahead and try that. Now remember, this method over here with our nice little chart is what we learned yesterday. It's to help us work quickly through this division. 72 can't go into 2, and it can't go into 25, but it can go into 252. Looking over here, 288 is too big, so it's got to be this one, which is 3 times, which is 216. I have to borrow in order to subtract. 12 take away 6 is 6, and 4 take away 1 is 3. We check. Is it smaller? Absolutely. Bring down my 0. 72 goes into 360, exactly 5 times. Good thing we went to the 5. And we subtract. And our answer then is 35. All right, let's take a look at the next one. A plane travels 3,625 and 26 hundredths miles in 6 and 9/10 hours. What is the plane's unit rate? Well, the first thing we're going to do is have to represent this with a fraction. So we're going to need 3,625 and 26 hundredths over 6.9. I'm also right now going to put miles and hours. Now, we are skipping this next one, so you can just cross it off. This would actually have been 3,625 hundredths, and then we would have to change this one. We're not going to do that. It's not something that we continue to do as you go on, so we're going to go ahead and skip that. Now we're going to estimate the quotient though. So what are we going to round 6.9 to? Okay, maybe a 7, right? So let's go ahead and do that to a 7. And then what very close to this number does 7 go into evenly? Good. I would say, yeah, 35, right? So let's put a 35 and make just the rest zeros. Now, I don't need to say 0.00 here because if we were talking about like a dollar amount, that 26 cents isn't going to make a difference on 3,500, okay? So let's go ahead and estimate this. We're going to do 3,500 divided by 7. Can we cross out anything? No. 7 goes into 35 5 times exactly. So we just add the zeros on. So hopefully our estimate is approximately 500. Let's go ahead and check. So down here it says express the divisor as a whole number. So we need to go ahead and get our number here, and we're going to have to change it a little, right? 362526 over 6.9. Now, here is my divisor. How many places do I have to get rid of? Well, what place is this? It's the tens, so I'm going to have to multiply by 10 over 10. By doing that, my new denominator becomes 69, which is definitely a whole number. And then our numerator, by multiplying it by 10, only changes it to 36252.6. So in that one, it still has a decimal, but it can have it. The divisor's the one we want to make sure it doesn't. All right, the last step we need to do is actually to divide. And I'm going to, you probably have room on your book down here, but I'm going to write it over here because I'm going to probably run out. And 36252.6 and 69. Now, we can go ahead and make a list again. One is 69 and 2. If it was 70 and 70, it would be 140, but we have to subtract 2, so 138. And if we do 3 of them, 70 would be 210. Take away 3 is 207. And if we went ahead and added 70 to the next one, 4 times 70 is 280 minus 4, 276. And 5 times 70 is 35, 350. Take away 5, so 345. And let's go ahead and stop and see if that's enough, okay? All right, here we go. 69 cannot go into 3, cannot go into 36, but it can go into 362 5 times, which was 345. And when we go ahead and subtract, we're going to get 17, which is good because it's smaller. Bring down our 5. 69 goes into 175, only 2 times, which was 138. And subtract, and we get 37. Bring down a 2. And again, we have 372, very close to where we started. So it's going to go in there 5 times again, which is 345. When we subtract, we get 27. And let's go ahead and bring down our 6. And yay, it went in there exactly 4 times, which is 276. and my decimal comes straight up. So my answer is 525.4. So my answer is 525.4 miles per hour. And there is my answer. Notice it is in a unit rate because it's per 1 hour. Long problem, right? And I just noticed, I think that my writing over here probably went off your page a little bit, which stinks. I'm sorry. It won't let me. All right. All right, 2 more problems. Estimate the quotient first, then use the estimate to justify your reasonableness of your answer. It's got to make sense, guys. So Daryl spent $4.68 on each pound of trail mix. He spent a total of $14.04. How many pounds of trail mix did he purchase? So if this is our total and this is how much each one was, we're essentially saying how many of these can go into our total. So let's go ahead and estimate. What is 468 close to? 5, right? Good. And what is close to 14 that 5 goes into evenly? 15. Right, so 15 divided by 5 is 3. So hopefully our answer is about 3. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually solve. We're going to have to take our 1404 and 468. Now, in order to get rid of our decimal, it's in the hundredths spot, so we need to multiply by 100 over 100. By doing that, it becomes 468 and 1404. Notice we have no decimals now. Now we can go ahead and divide 1404 divided by 468. Again, we have huge numbers here, right? So 468 is very close to 500. So I know it can't go into 1, it can't go into 14, and it can't go into 140. So my goal here is to see, what am I guessing? Well, if this is 500, 500 and 500 would be 1,000, and another 500 would be 14 or 1,500. So it's either going to be 2 or 3, depending. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and try a 3. And 3 times 468. Now, we didn't make a chart, so I am literally going to multiply it out. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little bit of thing. 3 times 8 is 24. So I'm going to carry my 20 and write down my 4. 3 times 6 is 18, 19, 20. Have to add those. Write my 2, write down my 0. 3 times 4 is 12, plus those 2 is 14. And look, oh, we got lucky. Came out even. And look at that. Perfection, right? So how many pounds did he purchase? We would have to write, he purchased 3 pounds. Next one, this is our last problem. Mamie saved $161.25. This is 25% of the amount she needs to save. How much money does she need to save? So where I see this percent right here, and I know this percent is the same thing as 25 hundredths that way, because we have already written this in the past like that, right? Yeah, so since we know it's like this, we can also write it like this. By knowing that, we are going to have 161.25 over divided by 0.25. Okay? Hold on here, people. I think I'm doing something wrong. Let's back this up. Let's do our part to whole. So we have our 25 over 100. 25% is the part, 100 is our whole, and 161 is the 25%. So we know that's going up here, and it's going over 1, or x, sorry, because it's our whole. We need to know what that whole is. All right, so as we do this, we are going to go ahead and we are going to do our bow tie. 25 times x is 25x, and 100 times 161.25 is actually 16125 with nothing there. As we go ahead and divide by 25s, so we have 16125 divided by 25. And as we do this, if we were going to write down our 25s, this is quarters, and if you think about it, 1 quarter is 25 cents, 2 is 50, 3 is 75, 4 is $1, which would be 100, 5 is 125, 6 would be $1.50 or 150, 7 is 175, 8 is 200, and I'm going to stop. So 25 can't go into 1, can't go into 16, but it can go into 161 6 times, which is 150. When we subtract, we got 11. Bring down that 2. Now we look at 112. Look at that. It's going to be a 4, which is exactly 100. And we're going to subtract, and we get 12, and we bring down that 5. Oh, look, perfect. 125, which is the number 5, came out exactly. And there's no decimal, so it should be he needs to save, or she needs to save $645. Reminder, $sign goes in the front, never after. Never after. Now, we could have done this the way I had started out, and we would have had 161.25, and then we would have written this right here as our decimal, 0.25. And in order to get rid of our decimal in our divisor, we would have multiplied by 100 over 100. And that way we would have still ended up with our 16,125 divided by 25. So we could have done it that way also. All right, go ahead and head back to the classroom.